Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to Better Life discussion. My name is Marcia Trajano. I'm your host, and with me is Dr. Anahy Fonseca to discuss suffering. Hi, Anahy. How are you doing today?
Hi, Marcia. Hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you all again.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being back. And I just wanted to talk to everyone because there's really many effective ways today, especially our day and age, right? With technology, but there's so many ways to recover from, say, sickness and actually heal our suffering and pain. The real cure, however, will only come when we're able to eliminate the root cause. We often stop short of that because we address the symptoms, not the real cure, right? And wanted to do this, Anaí. Let's use this episode as an invitation to discuss the elements out there, and there's more than one, that can help us, all of us, overcome suffering. So, Anaí, I understand that Carl Gustav Jung is considered the best person to explain the nature of suffering and to present awareness and opportunity for healing. And we understand that as well, that his focus, of course, was physical and emotional well being from a medical perspective, right? He used very interesting methods to find the cause and the solution for suffering, dreams and imagination. I find it quite fascinating to read how dreams and my imagination can help me. So, Anai, can we just start today talking a little bit about that and we move on to the other sides of pain and suffering?
Yes, that's great, great talk. Um, and especially, Marcia, I would add not only emotional, physical, because emotional and physical roots, let's say, of suffering. Freud had himself organized when he talked about the personal unconscious, right? And about the material, let's say the repressed or denied material. um, I mean, ideas, drives, right? That the ego uses defenses and just lives in the personal unconscious uh,
Hmm.
because of trying to avoid suffering, right? But Carl Jung, and I think the core of Jung's theory
Hmm.
is the belief that the whole of the individual's experience should be respected and included, integrated, rather than aspects being like pathologized or disavowed as, I this is bad. That's the idea, and that Freud, of course, he understood that the ego kind of protects itself
True.
against drives and different impulses that um, don't fit with our image that we would like to have of ourselves.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's something that Freud for kind of couldn't fit in his theory, that it's the spiritual aspects of
Hmm.
us, of
And
human
that's
beings.
that's where he stayed, right? He went all the way, and then boom, anything beyond that physical experience is for the next generation. By that we mean Carl Gustav Jung and others, correct?
Yes, I think so. Yes, I think so. So Jung thought that that the personal unconscious or the
Hmm.
unconscious, let's say, was not only as Freud thought a place, let's say, in the psyche where things are like garbage, are denied, or oh, I don't want to deal with that, and then we get neurotic and we suffer because we dissociate. He said,
Yeah.
okay, this happens. He agreed, But not only that, for Jung, our unconscious was also a place of wisdom. Can you
Hmm.
imagine that?
That's beautiful, isn't it? The two
Yes,
sides of the unconscious. Yes.
yeah, so wisdom and health, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because he went deeper than Freud, not only in the personal unconscious, as we have been talking, but also he went deeper to the what we call collective unconscious, right? So he thought, Jung thought, but even in this personal unconscious with these issues that are not that the ego tries to read itself from, right?
Hmm.
Our Jung called our shadow aspects.
Hmm.
So our aggressiveness, for instance, our destructive qualities, so Jung thought that this all should be integrated. We should like put some light of consciousness in this unconscious aspects and integrate. Because if we dissociate, of course, we get neurotic patterns and then we suffer because we are going to act these patterns in our daily life, in our relationships, because we are going to project onto others this kind of aspects, and this will bring suffering to
Yeah.
everyone else and to ourselves. So we get stuck, let's say, if we dissociate, if we try to deny these aspects that we all have, right? It's human experience. To learn is to make mistakes, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we shouldn't pathologize in our mistakes, and I think that's really great, because when Joanna brings her wisdom, spiritual wisdom,
Hmm.
and says that we all make mistakes, we are evolving, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so she talks about suffering as look what she says. She says there is pain that elevates,
Hmm.
pain that conquers,
Yes.
and pain that brings redemption. Because if I listen to my what my pain is trying to call me to look at, to try to call me to, so that I can look into myself and learn about myself,
Hmm.
right? Because mistakes, we all of us, it's part of
Yeah.
human experience. Then I get redemption, I elevate myself. Because if we put Joanna and Jung together, they are talking about not only making our egos more mature, because we
Hmm.
can endure the suffering, we can
Hmm.
learn with the suffering, but also go deeper within ourselves and understand that we are spiritual beings
Yeah.
learning these material experiences. So, if we learn with our mistakes and really expand our view about ourselves, about others, then we can overcome pain and suffering because we
Yeah.
are
And
going to learn.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and then I was just thinking a couple of things that um, came to my mind. First of all, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We fail. We feel guilty because we recognize the failure, right? And from that guilt, we can go to either repent or repair to redeem yourselves, right? So I think it's very interesting because there's this bifurcation where I can get stuck in self-punishment and self-flagellation and truly suffering based on the failure that I already committed. It's past tense. I committed it, but I get embroiled in that mistake and stay there without being able to move forward. And I keep thinking, right, that when I mentioned that Jung used dreams and imagination, right, his therapeutical methods also included the idea that religion right? Religion can heal our soul, which is what you said before, that he, like Joanna de Angelis, they do believe that what causes the suffering are based in your spirit, in your soul, which is interesting, right? So it's the body's that manifestation of something in your soul that needs release. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, yes, perfect. Martha, you talked about dreams, and
Yeah.
that was really something different because Jung worked a lot with the dreams of his patients, of dreams of himself and some other colleagues, and he talks about this other consciousness, let's say,
Mm,
deep within our unconscious that he called self, but
hmm.
it's young self, as we said, that Joanna calls this, says it is the our spirit, and we could call higher self.
Yeah.
So when Joanna says, asks us to change our mental landscape, right,
Hmm.
to recognize, as you were saying, um, our mistakes, and to recognize our pains, our guilt. For instance, if I'm feeling guilty, I shouldn't like deny that I'm feeling guilty and project onto other, oh no, I'm all right. It's because she or he did this and that I'm feeling this. No, I'm not all right. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling guilty. Why am I feeling that? And so I have to look inside myself. But for instance, for us to understand, it just came in my to my mind because
Hmm.
you talked about a dream of a person, a, a kind of 60-year-old woman that has been, she told me that was some time ago, um, this kind of dream, you see, changing landscape. She's pretty much annoyed with getting old. You understand that?
I do. I do.
We all do, right? And not being so beautiful, this and that, so making a lot of thinking that she has to do a lot of plastic surgery or this
Mm,
or buy this or that and try to be younger or and things like that. So she tells me, because she had been in an area with that the city where she was born here in my state in Brazil was totally destroyed by the floods that we had early in
yes.
this year, right?
Hmm.
Was it was a small city, like in a valley, and
Mm,
the river just came washing everything. She was able to save actually some of her relatives and people from her family, but she can't, in a sense, get. She's also very worried, let's say, with getting old, and it's like an imbalance. Should,
hmm.
with everything that's going on in the world, in my city where I was born, with my family,
Hmm.
shouldn't I be worried? Let's say this is not conscious yet in her
Yeah.
mind, but
Yeah.
it's there. The self is calling, and I will tell you and everybody else the dream so you can make your own understanding. But
Hmm.
she's kind of divided, Martha, that a part of her was there when the flood happened, and she is a very strong lady. She was able to save a lot of people. She was quick to realize that the river was the level of the river was rising. So she got her car, she picked up relatives, she went up in a hill. She saved a lot of people. At the same time, look at that. We are talking about the higher self and the ego, right? At
Yeah.
the same time, when she goes back some weeks later to her daily life, all the worrying that, well, I'm getting old, well, this and that friend looks so beautiful, they have made a plastic surgery, so it's kind of crazy, right?
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
And of course, there is some kind of defenses of the ego, right? But
Or even, I'm just thinking out loud here, even that extreme need for belonging. And as you know, there's this entire body of literature talking about as you age as a woman, especially in your 50s and your 60, you become invisible, right? You become invisible. You start to no longer have a sense of belonging, of acceptance that comes with no longer being attractive as a young woman. So all of it's wrapped up, but in relative terms, her obsessive, and I'm going to call it obsessive with my quote unquote
idea.
air quotes here, yeah, it's this fixated idea on how she needs to be young, and you and I can quickly see that there's that underlying need to be loved, right?
Yes, yes, and to be accepted, but in a
Yes,
certain way, denying the previous experiences of how
yes,
strong she was
that's a good
to
point. Yeah,
save a lot of people,
yeah,
and and to kind of she was very intuitive, and we say that
hmm,
intuition is from the depths of the psyche,
that's
right? Is
right.
the higher
Hmm.
self. She was able to realize before a lot of people that the river was going up, um, and so she was very quick, and she
Hmm.
saw like to save people, actually to go up on the hill, and
Hmm.
she had a very strong images, Martha, and I wanted everybody who is listening to us to imagine. You said you talked about
Hmm.
imagination. Yes, Jung
Yes.
would propose active imagination is one of
Hmm.
the his techniques to deal with images, for instance, from the dreams, right? To
Hmm.
talk with our inner images and characters, let's say our complexes. So
Mm.
imagine that you are, at night, a lot of rain, you
Yeah,
have your members of your family that need assistance. The
yeah,
river is going up. You have to leave quickly, and nobody kind of believes because the river always in this city had been going up, but never getting inside
yeah,
and washing
yeah,
really people's
yeah,
homes, right?
yeah,
But she was so strong, she was so connected that she told me she knew it wouldn't happen. This knowledge is intuition, knowledge
yeah,
without reasoning, let's say, our
yeah.
intellectual mind getting in the way. And
Hmm.
so she just said, no, we are leaving, we are going. She never questioned, and she was so strong that people just follow her. And so she saved a lot of people. But okay, some weeks later, everything is settled. The ego says, okay, let's forget. Okay, we could evaluate if she had a post-traumatic disorder, but she doesn't have any
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
symptoms. Okay,
And I'm
so
smiling because I keep thinking of the dialogue between the ego and the higher self, right?
yeah, yes. Yeah, so, and we say, Martha, that it's
Uh,
time, and people, a lot of people all around the world are going
mm,
through a spiritual awakening.
that's right.
People's higher self, right? Or as Joanna says, our spirit down deep. It's not down. It's everywhere, but in the depths of the psyche, is
Yeah.
calling to our egos, and it's
Hmm.
very strong. This calling,
Yeah.
but imagine if you get stuck in everyday life with your friends. She's a divorced lady of 60, or more or less. The son and daughter are already out of the house, having their lives, right? So what their friends that were not there, Said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, now we have to go abroad. Let's go to Europe. Let's
Uh-huh.
have some fun. Let's go to bars and try to date a little bit. Not that this is bad, but the thing is that the experience she had was so strong.
Mm-hmm.
The self, capital S, is calling her so in a way, so meaningfully,
Mm-hmm.
that if you just think that you are able to live your daily
Yeah.
life,
Mm-hmm.
then something is going to go wrong. And so
Mm-hmm.
let's go to her dream, so our conversation can be more, it's made clearer. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens that she dreams that she is in her car taking some relatives. They're following her, okay, in other cars, and she has to crosses a river, a
Mm-hmm.
very river that it's very thick, and
Mm-hmm.
the water is running really
Mm-hmm.
fast. But she says, okay, because she sees that the water is clear, and she sees a path,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that it's under a stone path.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very symbolic. You can make your own connections and
Yeah.
amplifications. So
Yes.
it's a stone path that it's goes under the water, but it's
Mm-hmm.
clear to see, and she knows her car can go through, follow this path because the water is clear. So she goes and says it's okay, and she realized that she is kind of suddenly she's in the middle of crossing this river, that she was not paying attention, and
Mm-hmm.
then the water gets dirty
Oh, yeah.
suddenly,
Yeah.
and she cannot see the path anymore,
Yeah.
okay, and so she gets stuck in the middle of the river. So I thought this dream, I wasn't thinking about this dream, but when you said dreams and we are talking about overcoming suffering,
Yes.
so one of the things that I think differentiates Jung from, Freud and other thinkers in psychological field is that he says that spiritual experiences and spiritual knowledge is something very important in the psyche. You know,
Yeah.
it gives meaning, and here's where Joanna, I think, comes in when she asks us to urge us to change our mental landscape,
Yes.
you know, to
Yes.
broaden our worldview, our understand the view about ourselves. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, the ego has to to live daily life and the best way that we can. But especially in this time that we are living in, it's
Mm.
very, very important that we make this connection. It's not with the outside knowledge
Yes.
or the world, it's the inner knowledge, right? And
Yeah.
the pay attention to our dreams, to our
Yeah.
intuitions, and to what the times are asking us to pay
And
attention.
and it's so
Does that
clear
make
when you narrate this dream, right? Where her intuition, her strength, but then get muddy and not being able to fulfill. But may I just go into a different direction?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
No, because it's quite complex, this whole topic, right? But both of us have read Wake Up and Be Happy by Joanna de Angelis. And in that book, she she mentions, right, that there is that purpose for pain. It helps us move forward toward our own spiritual growth. So there's, as you mentioned before, there's several layers in reference to pain and suffering. But I wanted to say that in the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec, he discusses this topic, the spirit world. And I believe it's chapter 7, he's talking about spirit life. And he's discussing the this whole essay, what does the spirit feel? And he specifically talks about pain. So Jung and Joanna de Angelis, they agree that it's you have to heal the spirit, not the body, right? And then we now talk about Joanna de Angelis and Allan Kardec, and they're cross referencing those two. We come across now with a very interesting dilemma that I'd love to hear from you, which is the body is the instrument of pain. So it is a dilemma. Is it the source is in the spirit, but the body's instrument? Can we kind of break this down a little bit, Anahy, for all of those who are here with us today?
Yes. So let's think about that. The body,
Uh-huh.
the instrument, because as you mentioned, Allan Kardec and Joanna, we all know through
Hmm.
Spiritist knowledge that
Hmm.
we are spirits living an experience in the flesh, let's say, in the material world, right? In the body,
Hmm.
in a body, let's say, right? And in this dimension, material dimension,
Hmm.
where we live in space and time, but
Yeah.
we know that the laws, even the laws of physics, are not the same in the spiritual
Hmm.
realms, right?
Hmm.
Different types of evolution, different types of spiritual realms, let's say. And Martha, you were talking about Allan Kardec,
Yeah.
and I remember, I love this sentence. Let's say if I can remember exactly,
Uh,
that Emmanuel, Chico
hmm.
Xavier, mentor, one of Brazilian's most known medium, right?
Yeah.
Chico Xavier said that matter, and he said that in the beginning of the 20th century, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That matter is coagulated light, something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, it's so it's light made matter, right? When we are here. And we know through quantum physics and things like that, that for instance, the electron can act as waves of possibilities or as matter, as a particle, let's say.
Hmm.
And what makes the electron do that is the observation. So if you put everything together, Emmanuel in last century, in the beginning of last century,
Uh-huh.
was telling all of us who could
Yeah.
connect and read Chico Xavier books,
Hmm.
uh, something that we discover, and we are still, a lot of people kind of have some difficulty realizing that or even understanding. But he was giving a beautiful image, how our spirit creates this reality.
Correct. Hmm.
We are not going into that. We are not physicists, and we have beautiful people like Amit Goswami, and
Yeah.
people should read his books because he's a quantum physics right
Hmm.
expert, his PhD and all that, and a lot of other authors in the United States, around the world, that study this kind of thing. But through spiritist knowledge, when you talk about the body, of course, I think Allan Kardec and Joanna are asking us to understand that this experience, the body is going to kind of be our vehicle, let's say,
Yeah.
our instrument,
Yeah.
to not only the instrument of the ego to live this life, but also to acknowledge pain, because it's the way that we can feel, oh, I'm feeling pain. So Jung says that the symptom is the way, the path towards cure, that we
Hmm.
should follow our symptoms, not
Hmm.
deny them, and not take a lot of medicine to end the symptom, without, not that we have to feel pain if we have
Well,
medicine. right?
but our society has become addicted to painkillers,
Yes, that's
broadly speaking, right?
yeah, that's awful because sometimes we just oh I need to finish the to forget my pain, so I'm going to get a medicine, a painkiller,
Yeah.
without even thinking, okay, what does pain mean?
What is it
For
telling me, right? What is it telling me?
what's telling
Yeah.
me? Yeah,
Yeah.
what's telling me? So this is very important because um, we are talking about illnesses or
Mm-hmm.
pains and suffering in the body as
Mm-hmm.
a path to understand ourselves, to
Mm-hmm.
better understand ourselves. And of course, I should see a doctor, right? But we know that a lot of people have pains and they go see a doctor, and they should. We're
Mm-hmm.
not saying that you shouldn't see a doctor, a medical doctor. And but if the medical doctor says, okay, we have run all the tests, I have examined you truthfully, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't find an explanation to your bodily pain, let's say, to the pain
Mm-hmm.
in your body. Okay, so I would just take medicine to end the pain. No, well, but if I can't find an explanation, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of science, so
Mm-hmm.
if there were something, an infection or something like that, the exams would show. But we
Mm.
know that a lot of people have pains in the body, for instance, and um, my colleagues, medical personnel from a lot of specialization, different specialization can
Mm.
find.
Yes.
So my point is, Marsha, like psychosomatic
Mm.
symptoms, because the body is the the vehicle, the instrument of
Mm.
expression of our spirit, not only the
Yes.
mind, the brain, but our psyche, our soul.
Yes.
So everything that we feel in the body, it's an experience, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful opportunity to learn about life, about each other, about
Yeah.
ourselves. So, and even about our bodies, because I have to respect, for instance, if
Yeah.
people these days after the pandemic, the people drinking alcohol, for instance, the alcohol consume, it just raised a lot.
That's what I heard.
So
That consumption of alcohol has just skyrocketed, right, in the recent years.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's awful for
Yeah.
your stomach, for your
Mm.
body, for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
organs in your body,
Mm.
right? For
Mm.
your circulatory system. So I'm doing something really bad to my body, and it's not fun, because I will get a disease. Of course, it's just a matter of time,
Yeah.
because it's intoxication. The body
Yeah.
and the brain interprets it after a certain amount of alcohol.
It's a
It's like you
poison, right? It's a
poison.
poison. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so
Yeah.
it's like an inflammatory process all over your body, in your brain, in your different organs. So I have to pay attention to what I'm doing to my body and why I'm doing that. If I
Correct.
don't do this learning, and it's going
Mm.
to be painful, because if I don't correct my mistake, that we were talking about that, I will have illnesses. I will have something in my liver, in my
Yeah.
stomach, in whatever, and I will suffer. And then I'll say, "Oh, I feel so God doesn't love me, or I got an illness, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's a really
Don't
bad way of
don't quote Marcia. I told Anahy several times how I've been sick for the past several months. Like, oh, can I feel well again? Let's forget that conversation, please. But I wanted
yeah.
to bring another wrinkle for us because this is quite interesting, right? The various facets of not just feeling pain, but overcoming that pain and suffering. But if you think about it, right, we're now talking about that spiritual dimension and a physical dimension. From a spiritual perspective, Suffering is the consequence of how that spirit has lived, say, in his or her corporeal existence, right? While we're incarnated and we live, like you said, overconsumption of alcohol, etc. So, um, my from a spiritual perspective, my spirit suffers from the consequence of how I lived, which means even when I'm no longer in a in this body, right? When I'm no longer in this body, let's pretend now we're talking about arthritis, right? I no longer have arthritis because I don't have a body, but as a spirit, I will no longer suffer from that physical pain, but I will suffer from everything I have done and how much I have caused in terms of pain to others, to myself, anything, all of that still being experienced in the spirit. So we can conclude that the pain is the result of the bonds, right? And the bonds that exist between spirit and matter, which also goes right what you're saying in terms of we are all responsible for the choices that we make because we have a free will. So the question here, perhaps, if we know all of this, if we know that the pain resides in the spirit, but there's this linkage, this strong bond between my body and my spirit, um, does it mean, that I have to be aware of all my, I don't know, tendencies or predispositions or even feelings that can be nothing related to drinking too much, perhaps, but actually how much I hate, how aggressive I am, how envious, how jealous, all of those things that are perhaps a byproduct of the ego constructs for this life. How can we handle all of this? Is this too complex for us, or can we kind of break it down to the idea that we have an opportunity, indeed, all of us, to heal our wounds, to heal our anything that's causing us pain and suffering?
It's a great point, Marcia. And you know that I love movies. And when I
Mhm.
was listening to you,
Mhm.
look what came to my mind.
Yeah.
That wonderful movie, I think it's from the 90s. You can
Mhm.
help me. The Sixth Sense with Bruce
Yes.
Willis,
Yes. Late
right?
90s. That late 90s.
Late
Yes.
90s, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that it's an image when I was listening to you. Let's
Mhm.
not forget the subtle body, what
Mhm.
in spiritist knowledge we call the perispirit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That connects the spirit with the body, the material
Mhm.
body. And that has memory because all of our experiences that we live, as you said,
Mhm.
of course, will be in our spiritual memory, let's say, because I'm learning and I'm
Mhm.
evolving. But also, Marcia, when you said, oh, okay, but okay, if I have arthritis, and then when I kind of die and leave my
Yeah.
body, I won't have that pain anymore. And but I will remember everything that I did, because arthritis many times as other disease we were talking about psychosomatic.
Yeah.
So many times autoimmune immune disease have to do with diseases have to do with psychological things that are, unconscious and things like that. Not only, but they play a very good part of the cause of, autoimmune diseases. So, yes, we will have the memory of our mistakes
Mhm.
emotionally that we have to deal with, that Joanna is saying, and Allan Kardec, that we have to learn to evolve with the
Mhm.
experience. But I was thinking, and it came to me like that, the sixth sense. I
Yeah.
don't want to give people
Eh,
spoilers,
that's okay. It's an old movie. Go ahead.
but it's an old movie. But if you people remember, right to the, I love that boy. I can't remember the name of the
Mm,
author. I
mm,
see that people when
yeah.
he's in the
And
hospital and
and
all this stuff.
became iconic, right? It became truly
Iconic.
that
Yeah.
that image, right? The image, the words, and how it brought to a lot of us awareness of that spiritual dimension and the communication between those who have gone and those who are here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very inspired movie,
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
that, and also of the process of awakening
Yeah.
to the spirit, our spiritual
Yeah.
reality. Let's say that we are immortal spirits, because Bruce Willis, as we know,
Yeah.
spoiler alert,
His character, right? His
his
character.
character, yeah, his character that we all loved was a child psychotherapist, right?
Yeah.
um uh, and okay, so he was like assigned to this little boy in his mind, of course, right, to treat the boy who was being bullied in the
Hmm.
school and all, because he was weird, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so when the boy finally believes or understands the
Hmm.
psychotherapist, Bruce Willis,
Yeah.
his character,
Yes. Yeah.
and
I
he
remember. I remember his name. It's
remember what's
yes,
the name?
Malcolm Crowe, and he
Oh yes,
yes,
Malcolm.
yeah, and
Yes,
he was the
okay.
child psychologist.
Yeah, child psychology, exactly.
Yeah.
So when the boy trusts him to say, I
Yeah.
see that people,
Yeah.
and it's iconic because the boy was trying to say something to the psychotherapist.
Yes.
And we know, spoiler alert,
Yeah.
that it was also, he was the only one who was seeing the psychotherapist. So the psychotherapist, of course, was a ghost, also, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But if you remember, Marcia and everybody
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
by the end of the movie, when he realizes, when he has the spiritual insight, let's say,
Hmm.
that he himself was a spirit, he
Yeah.
looks to his body and he feels the blood and he sees the blood because
That's
he had
right.
been shot,
Yeah,
remember?
that's right. He relives
So
that moment of trauma, if you will, right?
yeah, and he was not in the body anymore. It was, let's say, so where was that information? And how
Yeah.
could he see the blood and the wound? It was because the ego was there, even if he was a ghost, let's say, but he was a ghost, as we say. Actually, he was
Mm.
in his spirit form, but very
Yeah.
close to this dimension.
Yeah.
So in his mind, he was living the personality that he was living. He couldn't get the whole of his situation and the whole of his spiritual possibilities. And of course, he
Yeah.
had lived many lives and all this,
Hmm.
but it was very close, his experience. So he would
Hmm.
look to himself and feel the blood and see the
Hmm.
blood live in the wound. So I
Yeah.
think it's a very nice way for us to understand that
Yeah.
it's our consciousness that
True.
materialize uh,
Mm.
and things here in this material world. And when we go on in evolution, we do what Joanna is asking. We kind of change our mental landscape
Yeah.
because we get near to our spiritual knowledge,
Hmm.
our higher self. And
Yeah.
of course, our worldview is going to be totally different.
Yeah.
So I do hope that we can all evolve in this sense and very quickly, because things are changing, and all this spiritual knowledge, Marsha and everybody,
Mm.
is it's for us, it's
Yeah.
here, it's not
It's all for
something that
us.
we're going,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So we just have to connect to our higher selves. Go
Eh,
ahead.
No, no, it's very interesting when you say that because again, based on Joanna de Angelis, and she brings that idea right when I talked about redemption and reparation to be the way to address the source. of pain in your spirit, right? But one of the things that I find quite interesting as well is whenever we talk about, okay, let's address the source of pain. We all must understand that our pain is very personal. Our pain is not transferable. No one can go through the pain on our behalf. And this is so important because, Anahy, we are women, right? So we can be mothers or spouses or partners or children or friend. And when we're close to those who are our loved ones who are suffering, all that we want to do is like, can I live the pain? I'm strong. Can give me some, and you can't. And all we can do, and I say this to all of us, that all we can do if your loved one is suffering is to make them aware that we know, right? We know their affliction, we know their pain, we know the depths of their suffering, and that we're there for them. But we must, between all of us here, listen to this, we must understand that some experiences must be lived through to truly understand and move on. I think this is what we're talking about in regards to the sixth sense and how all of that trauma, that not trauma, the drama of Bruce Willis's character Malcolm, uh, to go through all of this is for him to be aware, to be to understand what he went through, so that he could heal and move on.
Yes, it's beautifully said. And I wanted to, and we know we're coming to the end, and I
Hmm.
wanted to cite Joanna. She says
Hmm.
something, look at that, Marsha, and everybody.
Yeah.
The trials inherent to your process of reparation
Yeah.
have been rendered more bearable
Yeah.
because of your love.
Ah.
And it is that very love that has also
Mm.
earned you exceptional help that
Hmm.
few people get.
Yeah.
I think this is so loyal.
Yeah.
As she says, loyal and devoted friends surround you with
Yeah.
affection.
Yes.
You are the object of unusual kindness and gifts.
That's
You
right.
enjoy blessings that would make other people very happy. So
Mm.
Joanna is telling us that we can, exactly what you said. Uh, People cannot live our own pain, and sometimes we empathize, but we have compassion, but we
Yeah.
cannot really feel other people's pain. But
Yeah.
we can love, we can have
Yes.
compassion, we can say
Hmm.
that I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And I can, of course, understand that I'm not going to be able to heal other people's pain, because only ourselves can heal
That's
ourselves.
exactly
Only
right.
us
Yeah.
can heal ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can help each other, loving each other. And
Mm.
especially we can help ourselves, as one is telling us to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
loving ourselves, accepting our mistakes,
Mm.
accepting, in a sense, what our pains, our bodies, as you so beautifully remember, Allan Kardec, wants to teach us.
Yeah.
What's the path it's showing,
Yeah.
so that we can do the going back to that dream, see always the water clear,
Yes.
right? So that
Yes.
we can follow the stone path
Hmm.
and cross the river, that it's very symbolic to cross a river to go to the other side. And it's not necessarily needs to be death, but very to move on, let's say, to move to another consciousness, right? And to move in our lives to other landscapes, as Joanna said. So we
Yeah.
need to cross many times rivers. It's a passage, right? Let's say, right,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our lives. But during our life span, and our cycle,
Yeah.
life cycle.
Yeah.
But we need to do with clear water, clear
Yes.
waters in the unconscious. And to do that, we have to be brave and to face our fears, our suffering, our fear of suffering, right? And
Hmm.
feeling pain. And
Yeah.
of course, through love, we can achieve a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome. I want to say that there is pain. This is Joanna de Angelis tells us this. There's pain that elevates, pain that conquers, and pain that brings redemption. So let's conquer, let's be elevated, and let's reach out, go through what we're going through so that we can go into that road, the path to redemption, right? The path with the clear water. And it's just that which will lead us to cross the river to get to the love that you mentioned. I want to close our time here today. It's such a good conversation. We could go on and on. We unfortunately have to say goodbye. But I want to say to you, if this is the first time that you listen to a program, note that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis, and we're here to offer this, I would say cool, but it's really a safe space so that we can talk about it, so that we can confront, compare, correlate, but most importantly, expand our spirituality concepts from a psychological lens and bring in perhaps some insights, some tips, or some advice so that you and I can lead a better life. Before we say goodbye, Anahy, I want to recognize and say thank you to the organizations that are sponsoring this program. TV, Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil. And if you haven't done so, please hit subscribe. Love to also hear from you. So write down in the chat window if you haven't done today. Do it next time. We're back so that we can hear your questions, your thoughts, your inputs. But with that, I'm going to say, Anahy, thank you so much for your time with us today. It's been such a pleasure to talk about this subject that is odd, right? Many people just say, "No, I don't want to talk about pain. I want to talk about joy, and I want to talk about the pleasures in life." Well, we talked about pain, and I hope this was a very insightful conversation for you, as it was for me. With that, so long, Anahy.
So long, Marcia. So long, everybody. See you soon. Bye bye.